And we are live. What is up, everybody? It is Saturday. I hope everybody had a great week. Uh, it's time to get some art going on. So, this is the final stream, so let me do the final introduction. My name is Josh Durham. I am an art director, concept artist. I've been at this for 11 years now. If this is your first stream joining us, you are at the tail end of it, so you should probably watch the other five first, and then you'll be caught up. Now, for this stream, the idea is that this stream will be about you guys. I've been showing how to create and how I approach, the problem-solving process of like creating my own story, which includes the art Bible and key art pieces and even prop design. But I wanted to give a stream for you guys to advertise your work a bit, ask me any questions related to your works, and I can give you some feedback live instead of it being, just like a little text feedback that is normal on Discord. So go ahead, if you have something you want me to check out, feel free to link it in the chat here on YouTube, or you can go ahead and post it on the concept art channel in Discord. You'll see I have a canvas up. This is not because I'm going to be painting something, but it's because generally as an art director, sometimes we will do like an overpaint. So if we're trying to give feedback on a piece or something like that, then we'll actually just like sketch on top of it to give more of a visual representation of what we're talking about. So excuse me, I still have a cough. It won't go away. But so let's get started. So for the first project that we're going to be checking out, I've been following Meg. Meg Murr, I think, is the username, but I'm pretty sure their name is just Meg. I know that they've been following us, and I appreciate you watching the streams. So before I get to the piece that you did, I saw that just an hour ago or 2 hours ago, you posted the art Bible that you're working on. So I went ahead and downloaded that and pulled that up. So let's check it out. So I am not going to, my advice is not what I would consider, law. So like whatever I say, just take that as like a direction that I'm just giving you, but feel free, like if I say it should be red and you want to make it pink instead, feel free to do that. I'm just giving some advice. So for your project, I'm assuming just from the name that it has like a South Asian, like Indian origin. Adhita, probably, something like that. Again, terrible with names, so forgive me if I screwed that up. But let's check it out. So I like the title page. I would recommend just not it's not like it's necessary, but I would recommend like a piece here, just like a visual. I thought so. Okay, cool. So yeah, just like a piece of just like a visual, like one front piece to give like the person who's reading your art Bible just like a straight up from the beginning feeling of whatever your project is. From right now, this is clean and it's nice. It's just now they have to like scroll to the next page before they start feeling anything. So like this piece would be cool if it was like on the front page. And then you had more pieces to follow, but that's just like a small note. So you got the narrative, which is great. She meets this serpent of some kind. It says a river dragon. So I don't know if it's closer to like a worm, like a WYRM. But okay. She stopped in her tracks and addressing her by name. All right. So slight typo right there. It's just a FYI. But so this is a good idea for the art Bible to have a piece with your narrative. This is also a good idea, by the way, to keep your name down here at the bottom right of every page, just so that way at any point in time they know that you're the one that created it. If you were working on a project like a team, then you wouldn't put your name down here because it's more of a collaborative thing. You wouldn't take ownership of the whole thing itself. But if you're like pitching this design to, a studio or something like that, then yeah, it's a good idea to have your name and then have some like contact info down here as well. I wouldn't put like a ton down here. I wouldn't put like your name, address, email, post office box, dog's first name, something like that. But like, yeah, your name, and then say maybe your email address or your portfolio or something like that is a good idea. So let's continue. Design elements, color harmonies, nice. I would say that it is helpful, at least until you have more of the project fleshed out, to have like actual. Let me check the next page before I say anything. Yeah. So okay. So to have like accompanying text. So you have the color harmonies, right? And you have a great visual representation of this this brownish with the green color harmonies, which is great. It's very natural, very earthy tones to it. But there's no text or anything, so the viewer that's reading this is going to find that they get a general idea, but they don't have the exact idea. So imagine this is an art Bible that you were showing to like a group of artists because you're trying to keep everybody on the same page. You would want some kind of text accompanying these to explain more of what you mean. So, for example, on this on the right side here, you could say like a box of text would be like, we want to keep the highlights warm because it has like this like a yellowish warm tint to the highlights. We want to keep the highlights warm, but then we want to have the shadows cooler, but we don't want the shadows to be completely blue, so we want to emphasize like this green in the shadows to complement like the warm highlights, something like that. That's just like a that is just a general like a direction of like explaining a bit of what you mean with the color harmonies instead of just having a visual representation. If you did just a visual representation, it'd be closer to like a lookbook, which is like not part of a pitch deck. It's like a separate thing, which is less text and more just a bunch of images of like how you're seeing, if it's a film, how it would be shot, and the general idea of everything. But for something like an art Bible where people are actually designing, you would want like some kind of text to accompany it to kind of give them like an idea of where they're going. Yeah, so the next page has a little bit about that, like the location. So the swamp marsh, you have some images of the mangrove trees, which I am a big fan of mangrove trees because they're just fun to do with the crazy roots. Huge fan of that idea. Now, so you want the tall ancient trees and giant mangroves, and then you have, like I mentioned, I see you bolded the front bit because that's like the main point of the text, and then the rest follows. Great, solid idea. And then because I didn't even realize you did that until I read it, but reading that first line just tells me the rest of this without even having to read the rest of that. Excuse me. If I keel over on stream, just assume what I said was great before I died. So should be summer. I like this idea. It gives it like more of this like earthy warm tone to it. Fireflies, amber green undergrowth. Yeah. So this kind of following text of the colors and everything that you I'm trying not to die. But I'm just chucking cough drops as much as I can. So yeah, so the fireflies, amber green undergrowth, everything like that. It's great. Totally get it. Totally understood. Very clear and concise. That's kind of like an example of what I would put on the page before with the color harmonies in here. Just a little bit of information. Now, next page, floating village. Sleepy fishing village on stilts. great idea. I actually have used images of, I believe, probably the same village for a project I worked on a while ago because that stilt village idea is just a really cool idea. Um, Now, the village is densely packed together for protection from the elements. It makes sense. You've now introduced color ideas with the village as well because the wood would be brown, whereas the grass would be green. So you've now introduced the color harmonies there too. Um, I will say the images um, that you use here are fine. They give the idea of the floating village. Uh, I may have used a different one for this right image simply because the left one you get like the idea of the greens and the browns. Same thing with the middle, you get this like sunset and the browns. But the one on the right is a bit too washed out color wise. Not saying it's, you've already established the color harmonies on the color harmony page, but this is more like just to constantly keep shoving it in their face on what the colors are. Using a washed out image like this may not read as well, especially because it has a radar dish on the village. So I would probably just replace that with a different image. Just word of advice. So Adhita, I'm assuming I'm saying that right, is a strong, independent, adventurous fisherwoman in her early 20s. She lives in a floating village on the outskirts with her brother and her mother. She fishes the marsh to support her family. Cool. She wears loose and wide leg pants, waterproof boots, crop top, and a sheer netted hooded shawl. All right, cool. So I like the shawl idea. I would probably keep that idea for the presentation image, just because the shawl really sells this more culture idea, because it's not, not every culture would wear this kind of fashion. So I would probably have her key image that's representing her here to make sure you focus on like the actual main selling point of like her character as a culture and the fashion design and everything like that. As is right now, it's cool. It's just it's not like in your face of like exactly where she's from or anything like that. Cool. So let's see. I'd probably as well. I know you took this from your image that you did with the boat, but I would probably do a more like a more character pose, less in like a scene, more like she's actually just standing there, designed. Something like, let's see, something like something like this, where you just have the character standing there in a neutral pose, not a T pose or anything. You want them to feel natural, but it's something to like represent them. You don't. This is just for a. If this is for like a pitch or something like that, then you definitely don't need to go this far where you have a turnaround like this. This is more for like the actual modeler to see, and for working with your art team and making sure everybody understands the proportions and everything of your character. But this is just for your, art Bible representation of the character. So you're welcome to just have just like a neutral stance of your character to kind of give some of her attitude, some of her personality, but still like show her full character design and fashion and everything without it being like her sitting down or anything like that. So you could try that, that's just an idea. So let's go back. So her design is cool. I like the design. Feels like closer to like Heavenly Sword, game for the PS3. But I'm a huge fan of this idea. It's really cool. So definitely a cool idea to explore. Nagas, I'm thinking Nagas is an ancient dragon crocodile. Okay. All right. So his long snake-like body with bumpy scales like a crocodile. The head of Nagas is the size of a compact car, so he's a big boy. The body from the head to tail is 35 feet long. His eyes glow, and their skin scales have an opalescent shimmer like the inside of an oyster shell. Okay, interesting. So, okay, so really cool idea, really cool design idea. I like the general idea, but in the piece that your work in progress piece that you sent with her in the boat and he's meeting him, I've noticed that the opulescent shimmer on the scales isn't quite there. So I'll give you an example of how to do that and make it more obvious that there's like a bunch of different colors, kind of like a pearl would be. Um, okay, he's 35 feet long, so he's huge. Okay, cool. As far as the art Bible goes, this is great. You get the feeling of the mystical dragon, and then you get the feeling of the crocodile. I would, however, recommend that this image of the dragon that you used here in the color harmonies, try not to use the same image twice in the art Bible, just to give more context to what you're explaining instead of constantly reusing the same images and reusing the same context, so just a little idea there, just to replace that dragon with something else, either in the color harmonies or here. I would probably replace the color harmony one, because here makes more sense, like text wise, that you're explaining what this dragon looks like. So having somewhat of a river dragon there is better than in the color harmony section, I think. All right, so next page, final page, fantasy. So magic permeates the deeper explorers, keeping villages and explorers at the marsh's edge. Potential for glowing flowers and fireflies to make it ethereal. Yeah, that's a good idea. And then also with the fireflies and stuff like that, you could have a light being emitted, reflecting on the scales of the dragon itself to give you more stuff to play with the dragon's like reflective scale nature. I would probably include something about the dragon scales here. I know that this is not technically about the dragon, but because the dragon is the fantasy part of the story, I would include a picture here of like, which you could do yourself, or something like that, where you have some kind of like shot of like a mystical dragon in water or something like that. I think that would be a selling point here, to give people the idea that you want like this kind of feeling of a magical dragon just moving around in the water. But yeah, besides that, as far as it being clean, definitely clean. Definitely less is more, which is great. So good job. I think it's pretty solid. We are going to approach this piece now. This piece that you sent, just to, help you get more of like what you're trying to design out of the piece itself, make it more readable. So I am going to go ahead and just pull that piece up here. I have it already here because I am prepared. It is slightly not 16 by 9, which is fine. I just need to fill in the blanks here. There we go. All right. Send help. All right. So, first things first, is the perspective of the actual dragon itself is possibly correct, but with the lighting and the shot and everything, it feels slightly off. So what I would suggest would be, and I'm not gonna fully paint over here. I'm just gonna give you a bit of like an idea of what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna do it in red just so you can see it. Yep. All right. So instead of having, um, first off, instead of having the dragon come off the edge here, I understand you wanted him to be, behind a tree to give the sense that he's like weaving through the trees. I got that. The problem is with this shot alone, just the shot by itself, compositionally, having him come off the edge right here, it really like pushes him off the paper. It pushes him like out of frame and kind of hides the fact that he's there. Now, you don't have to show all of him, which will also sell the fact of how big he is. So if you want to, what you can do is, if you, I don't know, let's say you just like had it something like, if we, first off, this tail back here, this tail, if we block this out, all right, so if we cover this, I'm just going to content aware it out. Whoops. There we go. So if we content aware that out, it sells more of the idea that the dragon could continue longer, which he may not, but it does give a sense of like how big he is. Now, I like this idea where he's coming in the water and he's coming back up. I just don't like that much of like how straight up he comes, So if you ever seen a snake in water, they tend to move side to side, not like dolphins, they don't go up and down. So he wouldn't, his tail may come up because he's just huge, but he wouldn't like come all the way out of the water and then work his way around all in one fell swoop. He would be kind of side to siding into any kind of root structures or anything like that around the area. So this curvature right here, I think is too strong. So if you just removed it and just made him ignore this very crappy quick paint over here, but if you just made his body continue like this instead, a bit lower to the water, it just feels a bit better. Feels a bit more smooth, less like he's rearing up for an attack or anything like that. And then another thing you can try is this is just great craftsmanship right here. All right, so another thing you can try is, like I said, he's coming off frame, right? So that is because you have him doing, let me do this in red. So you have him, imagine this is the frame here. Let's do a little bigger to show you. So you have your main character here, and then you have him starting in the middle with the tail, somewhere like here, and then he's going like this, and then he comes all the way up to the top left corner, and then he comes around like this, and then there's his head. So that really pushes him over to the side of the frame and kind of creates this perspective problem where you have the profile of his head, which is, in this shot at least, I think less interesting than if you had it be more of a 3/4 angle. So imagine instead if you had his body like coming all the way to the left and then coming back. Imagine if you had it coming closer to like, ooh, I did that on the layer, oops, that'd be right. So imagine him coming this way and then doing something like this, and there's his head looking towards your character like that. So then you have the shot with him centered with the character off to a little bit off to the side, but he's coming a bit towards the camera instead of directly from the side of the camera. So you have more of a, instead of it being like a direct profile shot of his head, which is hard to do perspective wise because you have the eyes on the side of the head, which makes sense. Um, you'd have him more like this, where he's coming at a 3/4 angle towards the character, so you can get more of his face and the perspective of both eyes instead of just one, and it looks a bit wonky from the side. Um, Something like that I think would be cool. You'll notice a lot of movies and like honestly like if I just type in freaking I mean even this like I don't even have to type in movies, even character concept art, they're either from the front or from like a 3/4 angle, because you can see both eyes and it helps sell the character more when you can see both eyes instead of it being a direct profile. Even this one, which is very close to being a profile, is still slightly 3/4 angle so you can see both eyes. It just helps sell the shot better. It's just more interesting because now you can actually connect to that character by seeing both eyes instead of just one. So so what I would recommend is if you take the tail, you can keep it like about starting like here, and then if you just had it go somewhat like this way, and then had his head like here, something like that. So then that would feel more that would feel more like he's actually looking at the character and also giving us something to look at, because now instead of having an eye directly on the side, you'd have an eye here and then like an eye here. You can get more of a sense of like where his body is in space. And then you can also have him, so I have it coming up like this, right? If you wanted to, instead of having it come up like that, you could have it, you could have it go down into the water and then kind of come up like that. So that way the body feels more like he's actually underwater and he's swimming around. So the less you see of him, the more is hinted at that he's traveling through the water. I know he's not going around a tree like you had before, but I'm just going to roughly fix that. Don't worry about it. I'll do it all in the same layer like a dingus. All right. So if you look at the thumbnail, you can see that this is coming in like this angle. It gives you more freedom to play around with trees and lighting over here in this area instead of having his body removed from the frame. Over here, having the tail come up and then like a little bit into the water is cool. I just have it, I think, coming into the brush. If you wanted to still hint that there is a tail there going in the distance, you don't have to completely remove it. You can have, you can add some more depth by adding like a couple mangrove trees or whatever here, and just have, like physically have his tail seen behind the trees to give it a bit more depth in certain areas. I think that would also work here. If you don't go under the water, you could have it, like some root systems here. Try to help frame the shot a little bit, maybe here too. And then you can see from the thumbnail that it adds a bit more of depth to just like how far back his body is, because now we have trees in scale that are getting smaller in the distance that he is still behind. So you can see that he's like passing through this swamp area and making the scale making more sense, Now, if you do this shot where he is now 3/4 angle looking at you, here, let me make him happy. There you go. There. There. So now that he's super happy to meet her, she is in a weird perspective. If he's coming off on that 3/4 angle, she's she's sideways and facing the camera. For a shot like this, it's not entirely necessary that she is fully facing us. I know she's the main character and you want to show her off. So what I'd recommend is I am not going to try to fix her anatomy because we will be here forever. I am super slow when it comes to fixing anatomy. But what I would recommend is one, her hair is a bit too. I understand you're trying to go with the flowy hair, but lengthwise, if you want it to be that long, and instead of it like jutting up like this and then flowing, just have it kind of flow down like this, like on the boat or something like that. Just behind her, like as a ponytail coming down. That would make more sense, like realistically. The way it kind of juts up like this and then flows down makes it feel more like there's like she just got blasted by like a strong wind or something. But if you want to, you can have her either have her back facing the camera, so that way she's looking at him, and then we're only seeing like the back side of her face, like her ear and her hair and everything. Or you can have the boat itself turned towards him more, and then still have her facing him, so that way we can see a bit more. Imagine a 3/4 angle, but from the backside, which looks like I just saw it earlier. There you go. Imagine a 3/4 angle like this, where you can see from behind and still see the character and everything, like this, where you can still see the face kind of poking through. So that way it makes sense, like perspective wise, that they would be looking at each other, instead of her like completely facing us and then looking at him. You want to make it more natural. So yeah, as far as now, I'm gonna undo all of that, just so I can show you the way I would add color to his scales. So you wanted the shimmering color to his scales, right? So to do that, a good way to do that is if you, yeah, sure, no problem. I'm glad I could help while I'm semi-dying. So a way to fix the scale problem is, right now you have the scales great. Like the texture on them looks cool. It's just they're very like white and green and like nothing else. If you look at a pearl, let's pull up a pearl. So if you look at or even pearlescent paint job, like on a car. So if you look at a car, you can see that it has like this bluish purple tone to it. If you're going with like the pearl colors, not something like these where it's like super obviously purple, but something like this where it's like this kind of whitish silver tone, which you already have, but it's got like this bluish and purple tone going into it as well. So what you have right now is like whitish with green, and what's happening is he's kind of blending into the entire piece as a whole, but then his orange eye, like his eyes, amber orange right here, is like popping out so hard that it feels fake. It feels like it doesn't like belong in the same piece because everything is so green. So a good way to fix that problem would be to introduce blues and purples, in which you have a little bit here with the flowers. Introduce some blues and purples into him, but also into the environment more. So let's say let me find a picture here. If I go to my references, I have a bunch of like forest pictures and swamps and whatnot. So let me find something here. If we did something like, say, this piece. Okay. So this piece is more, it's realistic, of course. Similar vibe of a river with a swamp, but it is very green heavy. But you can see that in the water there's some blue because of the sky reflecting. So what we could do is we could play around with this idea. So if I just put this on like, I don't know, probably darker color, maybe. Probably darker color, maybe, yeah, something like that. And then we just go ahead and add the color to it. So if we go to color balance, we can add some of the blues, and then we can add some of the purples into like the shadows. Oops. Something like that. And then let's do a little bit like there. Okay. Now, this is going to be a crappy job as far as, because I'm trying to speed run this. But if we delete if we delete all of this stuff, okay, and we have just the snake, just the dragon boy. Let me just mask him out here. Do 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 do. Welcome to Jurassic Swamp. All right, so we grab him. Again, crappy mask job. I apologize, but it'll work. And then we can grab the rest of him back here, like that. And then we grab this last bit over here. There we go. And then if we delete everything around him, so something like that, so that, just to bring her back in, just for example's sake. There we go. All right. So you can see that already the piece has more in line with your color harmonies that you established in Art Bible, because you mentioned in the Art Bible that you had these shadows with the blues here, and in here too you have the blues and the shadows with the warm highlights, and even in the dragon piece. So in the piece itself, now we have these like blue shadows with the warm highlights. Now the warm highlights are still leaning towards green, so I would probably just make them a bit more warm. So if I go to color balance, highlight, make a bit more red, and then a bit more yellow, a little less red, a bit more yellow, and then probably like there. Okay, so you can see that now it's like actually giving off this warm light source with the cool shadows. Of course, this is a very crappy, just thrown together shadows, but it gets, some of the colors into the piece. So now, whenever you go into the snake boy, you can go ahead and add in some of those colors. So a good way to do that would be if you took that scale texture. I'm just going to roughly do this here. If you take that scale texture, and let's say I'm just gonna do red, just to give you an example. But if you had a scale texture image, kind of like this, very crappy job, but it's fine. And you put it on a layer above the snake. Let me just do a little bit more here. Okay. And then you, if you wanted to, you could paint in the color itself. So let's bring in some of that sheen, some of that blue, and then some of that warmer kind of color. You want to bring in some of that, and you want to kind of just like hint that there's some colors there without it being like too distracting. So you're just kind of throwing in different colors, a bit more saturated, I think. There we go. And then some of the shadow, again, something like that. And And then you can have this idea that, there are some colors there now. So you can see if I zoom in, before and after, there is a bit of like an actual color there in his scales. Now, if you don't want to paint them like I did, which is very crappy and very like done in 30 seconds, you could do like whatever image you used for the actual textures of the scales. You could just take that image and go to hue and saturation and just play around with actually changing the hue of it to whatever color you feel is right. And then once you get close enough, you can also go to color balance and then just start adjusting like the midtones and the highlights and adding more different colors to it. That would make it stand out more as far as like a shimmery, colorful, pearlescent feeling to it. Yeah, and then for the actual shot itself, so that would be like all the dragon notes and then the character notes and then the shadows. Actual shot itself, I would say this part right here, this part right here is feeling a bit like empty. Like there's not a lot to look at here. I know it's a work in progress, so it's fine. Everything has a sketch, but I would probably put like some just more interesting, root systems and everything like that, but then also something here, like not just a tree, like actually like something here, like maybe like a bird sitting on a branch, or maybe like a broken ruin or something sticking out of the water, like something like visually something like right here, that is to kind of sell the fact that this is like a living environment. It has a history to it. It has a story to it, with the dragon and the character in it, but nothing that's like too distracting. You don't want to put like a teleporter here and then all of a sudden nobody's looking at your character. They're like, why is there a teleporter here? Something like that. You want to put some kind of key element here, or not a key element, but something to like look at, just not something too distracting. If you remember in the piece that I did with the Kitsune Spirit and Yukiko, the main focus was on the I'm talking about it like when I could just bring it up. Let me bring it up. Okay, so on this piece you see that the main focus, of course, is the two main characters in the middle, but there are still cool things to look at in the rest of the piece. So you have, like, of course, the torii gate in the middle that's framing the image for us, which is great. We have the shrine in the middle, which is a key piece that people can see is cool. And then you have the gravestones that are giving you something on the sides to look at. We want to direct their eye towards the characters. So that's why I have, like staircase coming up this way, because it's leading everybody, and then it's framed right in the middle, which is where their faces are, which is great. But in yours, we have them looking at the characters, but then there's like nothing else. There's trees and there's roots and there's some flowers, but you'll find that it feels a bit better if you have like let's just pull up like fantasy environment concept art. You'll see, actually we can do a swamp, because swamps, I understand swamps are difficult because there's not like a lot of stuff you can play with, but like if I type in swamp concept art, you'll see that even something like this, you have the main character and where he's going, but then you still have like a broken pieces of wood over here, some like cool shapes, something like trying to find something that's not like super obvious, something more like a swamp. So like this, right? Even though it's just trees, you have the main tree, and then you have a path leading to something here, and then a path leading to this over here. There's always something to look at other than just like the main point of the image. Just as like a word of advice, like even with this, right? The main character and then the rest is desolate, but they put a smoke contrast behind this tree here, so this tree has an interesting element to it, and then this tree over here is coming off at like an angle, which brings you towards the main character, but also is an interesting element in itself to look at on the left. So there's always something to look at around the piece, as long as your main central focus, of course, is the focus. just another little tidbit. Probably put something here. Um, yeah. So I think as far as notes go, that's pretty much it. Just adjust the colors. Which adjusted the colors, you'll see that the eye on the dragon will also need to be less like it'll end up being less jarring that it's so different than the rest of his body. Um, because what you can do as well, because he's shimmery, you could have some of that orange kind of blend into the rest of his face. So it would kind of blend in a bit like. Am I on a weird layer here? Okay, so it kind of blend in like this, where it's like reflecting off of the nearby scales, and giving more of like an iguana feel, which I think in that picture you used for the iguana, it had that. Yeah. So you can see the iguana's eye is orange in this image. But if you look at an iguana's eye in real life, you can see that. I'm trying to find one with like the whole body. There you go. So you can see that the orange scales start blending in around the eye instead of it just being the eye itself that's orange. And then there's a bit of like hint of orange around in the scales. Same thing here. It's like orange and pronounced, but it is blending in. It slowly turns into this orange instead of it just being like, boom, orange. So you could try that as well. That might help you out. But yeah, so I think that's probably all my notes that I would give at the moment. I try not to give too many notes without somebody, actually working on them, because then you get overwhelmed with every little thing. Yeah, of course. You could also play around with reflections, by the way, as well. I forgot to mention that. So right here, you have the snake coming this way, and of course this way. But in the water reflection, it's just an artifact of the reflection picture that you used. There's a tree here and a tree here and a tree here, but there's no snake being reflected. So I would recommend just taking some of that snake color and just kind of like reflecting it into the water itself, just to give the idea that the snake is actually there in the water. And it'll add some more of the snake's or the dragon's color into the environment, which will help him feel more like he actually lives here, kind of thing. So it could be like that. Yeah. So I think that's probably all my notes for that, at least. So we still have 2 hours and probably like 2 hours. So what we can do is I can go on Discord and just start looking at everybody in our community's stuff and just see what we got. So let's see, who's next? Who would be next? Let's start with the Color Paper. They posted something about an hour and a half ago. Let's see. So this is more of a feeling of like a 3D render. Yeah. They use Blender. So what you can do for this is this is great, by the way. Solid work. Really like the vibe. Me personally, big fan of seeing some slight brushstrokes in there, because I always preach about like things feeling human, feeling broken, and this is some mixer brush I used right here. Really like that feeling. Great job. So overall, solid work. There's also a bit of brushstrokes here, which is great. If there was anything like notes to say, I would say that it's very empty, which I understand. Maybe the part of your world is that it's an empty world. I would just say that the main character being so tiny here with the rover is a bit it feels like a shot of like a film where the characters are on a journey and it cuts to like the characters far away traveling through the mountains before it cuts back to them. So that's cool, that's totally fine. I would just recommend like as a piece for itself, if you're trying to sell it as like an exploration piece, like you said, Discovery series, it would feel better, or I guess it would read better if you had like a main character somewhere larger, either like closer up to the shot, or maybe like wherever they're going could be visible in the scene somewhere. Like if they have, because I can see that they're rovers. If you have like let's say a like a station or something like that, like an outpost that they've built on this planet of some kind, they could they could like be going there and give the viewers something to look at that they're traveling to. Totally like the piece though. Really cool colors. I like this grayish blue tone with the orange. Nice. I dig it. So, yeah, that's pretty much all my notes on that. Like rendering style is great, so wouldn't have to worry about that. I noticed this scratchy brush that you use for like the clouds. Great feeling of like still seeing the brush strokes. I'm a big fan of that. So cool. Good job. All right. So let's go on to the next person. Let's see. And to anybody watching, feel free if you want to post something that you just always wanted somebody to talk about or needed some feedback on, something like that. Feel free to send it my way through Discord, or post it on Discord and Concept Art channel, or just post a link in the live chat, and we can chat about it. So let's see, who else we got? We got there's another piece by Color Paper, the person that we just had pulled up. So let's pull them up again. So this is another Blender shot. Like you can tell that it's it's like a 3D rendering that they photoshopped on top of. Really cool shot, to be honest. And I know that this would have taken forever to actually place all the assets and then paint over it. I see that you probably generated them in some way. So I'm wondering about how long it took you to do that, because I doubt you actually went in and probably placed every single tiny object. So you probably just I can see it here that you had like some kind of object scatter. So you had it generating and populating around. But I am wondering how long that took, because that is really cool. But yeah, so I like this idea. I will say one key note is that it is a bit like, what's the word here? It's a bit warm, like too warm, I think, to where it feels almost golden, which I understand, that's a very old school, like Lord of the Rings feeling to it, where they had a bunch of bloom on everything and it made it more golden and shiny and, everything in between. But if you're rendering this out to make it like realistic, then that would not be, the style shot that you would need. This is more of like for example, if I pull up Lord of the Rings, what was it? The Elven City area. I forgot. Elven City. Rivendell, is that the one? Yeah. So you can see in the shot, used in the movie, that there's a warm tone to everything. You have like this sun drowning out all the colors to the shot, and it's creating like this just like golden brown to physically everything. Now it's cool, you know, it's a cool shot. It's very old school style of doing things. It's like it's kind of like that idea of like oh, something shot in Mexico, so we put a yellow tint on everything. It kind of gives off that like old school idea. But in Rings of Power, you can see that they have this golden feel. Rings of Power, by the way, however you feel about the actual story, was shot gorgeous, gorgeous show. The the shot here has like this golden color, but it still has some more of the white and blues coming through instead of it being washed out and brown and golden with bloom and warm. You know, everything's like kind of drowned out, and that's what this feels like. It's got it honestly, the shot composition and everything's fine. Everything's cool. It's given like very like Final Fantasy probably 11 or what's the what's the what's the word I'm trying to think of? I'll think about it later. But the the general environment and the design and everything is really cool. I think it's just for the shot, the color harmonies. As you can see here, this is nice. You know, you have in the actual assets, you have this like blue, gold, and red and everything that's kind of like working together. And it creates this really cool color harmonies with the pieces. But then in the shot, you added this this like warm, almost sepia tone to like everything, and you lose the blue. The blues turns to green because blue and yellow makes green. So you start losing the blues. You lose some of the gold because it starts blending in, and then of course the like reds are completely lost because the reds will turn into like this like darker tone because the general color of the environment like this back here is supposed to be red, but it's been toned down. So, you know, I would just recommend if you're trying to, you know, if you wanted the shot to be super warm and bloomy, that's fine. I was just saying like if you wanted it to feel more interesting with the colors, then I would recommend just keeping it more like this, where you have the gold coming through naturally from the asset itself, like this, instead of having this warm tone to everything. Yeah. So I hope that helps. Let us continue the journey through everybody's stuff on Discord. Let's see. Who we got next? Who is next? Okay, so we've got OPS, who posted a 3D render, it looks like, of a drone. That does look cool. I like the idea of a drone. Actually, that's how I met Conrad in Matte Paint, was because I had a drone and I was taking pictures, and I messaged him and I was like, hey, you need drone shots? And then we kind of started working together from there. So I'm a big fan of drones. I like it. I like the idea. I will say, design-wise, I have like no notes on the drone. The drone's cool. It's just, you know, it's a really cool drone. I would say that presentation-wise, this project could use some work. Simply because the renders are cool. Like I'll give you that. The design is cool. Big cyberpunk vibes from this. But the presentation in certain areas, like here, so the character and the background and the boxes and the drone are all the same color. Like they're all the same exact shade, all the same exact value. Like everything's the same. So it may be clean for like the actual design of the drone, but when you're presenting this to somebody, or let's say like showing this like modelers, or what you would be modelers, this would be showing it to more like a drone would be somewhat like maybe an enemy design, or if this is a film, something like that. If you're presenting this to somebody, you would want it to stand out more of like less of the character is visible and more of the drone. Now, I'm not saying remove the character, because you definitely want to have the person there for scale. It's great for scale, but they don't need to be exactly one in the shot, like physically blocking the turbine, or two, or the propeller, or two, they also don't need to be the same color either. So if you have, let's say the background's like this metallic gray sheen, and then you have the metallic gray sheen of the drone, it starts kind of blending in a bit in certain areas. Here it's fine because you have like the shadows and then the highlights, but the character itself, really blends into the background. And honestly, I don't even think it's like necessary to be a rendered character like that. You could just have like a 2D cutout of a character scale, because the main point of this is a drone, not the character. So honestly, like here, you could have something like you could do something like you could have something like this where let's see. You could do something like, I think The Last of Us did it. What I'm trying to think of here, where it has the character concept with different outfits. Yeah, probably Last of Us. All right, on it. Last of Us character concept art. So, nope. All right, Final Fantasy 14 did it. I have the book, so I believe that it'll show up if I Google it. I know it's in the book over here, so I may just have to find the page in the book and show you. But if you look at concept art, now I know this drone is a 3D model. I'm not saying that you should make it a 2D image. I'm saying that this principle applies in 3D as well. If I could find an example of it, it would be great. But essentially, the idea of your piece is a drone, right? So you don't need to focus too much on the character, and you definitely want to make the drone stand out from the background. So having the drone the same color as a background and having the character the same color as a drone kind of makes everything blend together, and it doesn't read very well. I can't seem to find an example here, so let me pull it up in real life then, because I have the book here. Just give me a second. Give me 1 second. I'll find it quickly, and with haste and with speed, like a lightning McQueen. Okay, here we go. So this is a goofy example, but it is a fun. It's a funny example, but it is a perfect example of what I was talking about. So you can see in these two examples here that the idea for this is that they were focused on the clothing design, right? So you can see that the clothing itself is the focus point. So the character design is just like this basic face, like smiley face, essentially, that they just like roughed in because it doesn't actually matter, because they were mainly just focused on the character design itself, like the fashion design itself, not so much on like the facial anatomy. Then you can see on this piece here that the armor is the focus, of course. So they have the armor laid out, and you can see next to it is the armor again, but there's only like a ghost image of person in it, of a person inside of it, because the image is not the point. It is the or the face is not the point, it is the armor that's the point. So you want to make sure that whatever you're designing, let me make sure the camera can pick up both here. You want to make sure that whatever you're designing is the focal point and have it stand out from the rest of the piece, so that way you don't have to worry about, you know, your model or anything like that being blended in. Can you see that? Let me. It's like here. Let me make sure you can see that. I'm looking at like a 12-second delay preview, so I'm just trying to make sure that you can see it. But yeah, so just there you go. Yep, you can see it now. All right, so just make sure that your model and your presentation is very clear and concise and stands out, because one, if you're presenting it to somebody, then they'll know, you know, hey, this is exactly what he's doing. But then two, it just makes the piece like nicer to look at. Everything's clear. Meg, what is the title of the book? The title of the book is Final Fantasy XIV, Stormblood, Art of the Revolution, Western Memories. They have an art book, I think, for like every DLC that they make in Final Fantasy XIV. I do not have one for every DLC, but when I went to GDC 2 years ago, they were selling this there, and I was like, I have to buy this because I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy, and I had no idea at the time that they made art books of every single DLC and expansion that they released. So I was like, this is mine. Like, this has to be mine. So I bought it there, and it's great. I like it. It's great because it also shows a lot of like examples of how you can present something simply while still maintaining this air of like professionalism in the design. Like, the focus of the design is the point, not the focus of the rendering. So, for example, you can see here with looks to be Halicarnassus, however you say that word. You can see that she is. Let me make sure that you can actually see that. Yeah, so you can see that she is pretty well refined, but when they did a turnaround of her head, it's just like a line drawing of the front and the back, just to give examples of the helmet shape, without doing a full turnaround. Now, did they not do a full turnaround? I'm pretty sure they did. It's just that probably at the time when they were actually designing her from the beginning, they just roughed out some ideas and then did the turnaround after they established, like, this is the idea that we're going with. So this is probably just for like exploration purposes, and then they actually started refining and making a turnaround for the modeler and everything like that. Super cool. Honestly recommend getting any game art book or movie art book of a game or movie that you actually really enjoy or like, simply because you will run into how they made it, and then you'll understand more of like the process of everything, and then more of like what actually matters when you're presenting something and designing. So let's continue on the journey of everybody's Discord. Let's see, who is next? We got Zalos, who made a weapon concept art. They posted this January 30th, so a little while ago. Let's see. So this is a weapon concept that looks to be 3D rendered and then also painted. Yeah, okay, yeah, Blender and Photoshop. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so cool. Okay. I like the orange and blue. That's a good choice. That's the best choice of these four. Cool. Little silhouette designs. I gotcha. I'm following. And then Yep, some silhouette thumbnails, and then you started adding some like general design ideas to it. Yep. Okay. And then you roughed in. I'm assuming you roughed in the colors, and then you made 4 different color options, which is a good idea. Just to give people more choices to explore, which is great, and it's quick. It's just like a uh, quick way to get an idea out there. So this, I think, is an interesting idea. I don't usually think about value like this. So what you did is you started with color, and then you started playing around with different values of like darks and lights on the actual gun decals and where they should be. That's a cool idea. Me personally, I always think about values and color at the same time. I don't like separate them like this. But that's actually it's interesting that you focus on it like that. It's cool. Um, okay, so then you established the values of different ideas that you liked, and then you went into refining the shape. Okay. Then you went into painting out the actual what's the word? Ambient occlusion of like the shadows and everything like that. And then you went into Blender and modeled it out. Okay. Cool. So this is a cool idea. I liked honestly, I like the idea that you seem to have gotten rid of it. But I did actually like the idea of down here. Where was it? Is it in the values? Yeah. So right here, you had one option where the 3 vents, like the exhaust of the gun, were lit up, and I think that's cool. Now, I like this idea, but you left the vents with like nothing on them. So I'm wondering if we could try lighting them up as well, or if you like say put this into like a game or an animation of some kind. Whenever the gun fires, you could have those 3 light up as like an event exhaust as the shot goes through. You could try something like that as well. I think that'd be cool. So, as far as like the presentation of the design here, this is very clean. Autogrive is a word I've never heard before, but it sounds really cool. Nexus, and then Flashpoint. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. The muzzle flash would be cool with like a vent of like whatever the energy color is. So at this point, blue. It'd be cool to have blue shoot out. So, yeah, this is a cool idea. I like this. I'm gonna give you a like. I like it. Cool. All right. So, in fact, I forgot to like. I forgot to like the other ones. So let me do that real quick. I like you, Pavel. Thank you. And I liked your work. Your work was solid. And your other piece, which was this one. It's also cool. All right, so let's continue into the Discord journey. What do we got here? I saw this piece a while ago when they posted it, January 24th. This is a cool one. So this is a piece that kind of does like what I've been talking about, where you have the focal point of, soldiers coming through like a time portal. I'm assuming because it says time travel, and well, it says the Nazis figured out time travel. Okay, so um, yeah, so you have these soldiers coming through the portal. I appreciate that there's one halfway coming through the portal, so it sells the idea that they're like walking through, and in this scene, solid job. Um, and then you have the other focal point, which is the like Templar Crusade Knights over here, and then you have something over here to look at. This is just like a narrative selling point of like where did these guys come from is naturally told through the fact that there's a castle there. That's great. So like you have the focal points and then you have something in the environment to look at that also ties into the story. It's great. It just makes the piece feel better. It makes it read better. And then of course you're using I don't know if you did this on purpose or not, but the trees here on the right being vertical like this, and this one tree on the left being vertical is actually framing your image. It's kind of condensing the image into the center a little bit more because now you've like created a natural frame, which is cool. So you've now just like really squared in on the focus point of these guys. I will say the moon looks misshapen a bit. The moon looks not like a perfect circle, and I don't know if I'm just going crazy, but it feels like it's not a perfect circle. It feels a bit squished. I would probably just fix that, but honestly the rest of it's fine. It's definitely done in Unreal. You can tell by the 3D rendering and everything, but yeah, overall this is a solid piece. I'd say probably color wise you may add you'll find that I do a lot of color choices in my works. I'd say color wise you'll find that I try to add more color to something if possible. Right now your piece is more monochrome, so you have like one major color overwhelming everything, which at the moment is this like it's very like cool green, like it's like a bluish green, almost like a teal, is kind of just everywhere. Like the sky, the mountains, the castles, bluish, the greenish is more here, and then of course the bright white blue coming from the portal. I like how bright it is. It's creating like a flashlight effect where everything is kind of like ping, like everything's just like boom. But it would be cool if in the shadows you had like a different color somewhere, not necessarily that it's more realistic to have a different color because this is nighttime, so there wouldn't be like a lot of vibrant colors, simply because your eyes can't see that well in the dark. But with something this bright, you would have an area drowned out in light, which is here, and then you would have an area back here that's still dark because it's nighttime, but somewhere in the middle, it's like a gradient. Somewhere in the middle, you would have more color popping through because it would feel more like almost daytime, as far as like the brightness goes. So it would be cool if like right here, behind the soldiers, had some like some kind of other colored shadow. Maybe the shadow colors over here are different than the color shadows over here, just to add some more interesting like dynamic feeling to the piece instead of it being just all one color all the way through. Now I say that, right? I'm gonna like this, by the way. I say that not one color all the way through, but the newest piece I just did was for my my friends, and we were playing Alien RPGs, like an Alien D&D kind of game, and I was a DM, and I really like this idea of the queen whenever we met the xenomorph queen, and in our story the flare was the only thing lighting up the area. So I just woke up the next day and I was like, I just want to rough this out real quick. So I just like 30 minutes sketched out what that would have looked like, because I really like the idea of just like pitch black darkness with only one light source. So in this scenario there is only one color and it's red. So it makes sense, that you wouldn't have different colors. In your shot, you have the same thing where you have this darkness that's being illuminated by one light source, but you do have a secondary light source because you have the moon that's creating a bit of a light behind the castle over here. So you can play with slightly different colors coming from one and the other. What those colors are exactly, I believe, it's up to you. You can play with it and figure it out. But I would just suggest like maybe adding like another color in there somewhere. So yeah, that's pretty much that. So thank you for your piece. It's cool. I do dig it. I would just recommend like add a color for some interestingness, the cool factor, So let's do one more before we do our halftime stretch. Let's do Cliffs by David Dugan. Dugan? Probably Dugan. All right, so this is definitely 3D render with Photoshop. I can tell it's Photoshop because there's some brush strokes here, which nice. Big fan. Seeing some brush strokes. Appreciate that. I'm gonna give you like immediately because of that. But as far as the piece itself goes, very cool piece. It feels a bit like like Uncharted, very like open waters exploration, a bit like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, maybe a little bit like Moana, but of course Moana's more stylized. Moana's on the brain because Moana 2 was announced, and I'm a fan of Moana. But overall, really cool idea. And it has a bit of what I've been saying as well, where you have the main focal point, which of course is this rock. It's not anything to write home about because it's a rock, but it's like a mountain, but it is cool. And then you have something go down here to look at, which is like a wrecked rowboat of some sort, and then like a sailboat over here for some scale, some birds for scale. Then you have like, you could have had like just like a basic mountain over here, but you added this like thunderstorm, which is cool. And then you have some mountains over here with something interesting to look at. So there's something interesting to look at everywhere in this piece, without it being distracting. Everything is still focused towards your point, which is your main giant mountain here, and then the sailboats. This whole section of the piece right here is a focus point, but everything else kind of blends in to where you have nice things to look at all the way through. There is a slight tangent that I would have fixed back here, way back here in the. Let's see if I can zoom in here. I cannot. All right, so way back here, this one island has a mountain behind it in the distance. That mountain behind it is lining up perfectly with this mountain in front of it, and it's creating a tangent where they become the same shape, like they're becoming like together, like they're turning into, like it's going into each other like this, and it's becoming the same exact shape right on the same line. So I would probably take this close mountain and either reduce its height or increase its height a little bit to block that back mountain, or to get away from, or increase the height of the back mountain, like one or the other, just to kind of break that line up so that way there's not a tangent line like that. I think that'd be a cool idea. I do like this. This is cool. Yeah, so you got a centered composition, right? You got this round coming down, and it's creating a bit of like a curvature here, where you have the mountain at the top rounding down, and then you have this rock rounding up. So it's creating like a vortex for your eyes in the middle, so you can see everything. You have the ships crashed over here, and then you have some waves crashing in, which is creating like a movement and a dynamic feeling to the piece. Really solid. I like that a lot. And then this is a rough sketch for the piece at the top, I'm assuming. Yeah, this is, just what rough sketches look like. No, okay, so this is what I was talking about. So see this mountain right here in the back? Notice how this mountain kind of comes down and stops, and then this mountain kind of comes up and stops. and this mountain has its own obvious shape to it. If we go back to this piece, this mountain here blends into the one in the background, and it doesn't have its like obvious shape anymore. So that would probably be something that I would like bring back. But honestly, that's like just like a small change, and everything else looked fine. Colors are fine, rendering's fine. The water's cool. I see you were playing with Waterline. But yeah, like honestly, solid job. I dig it. Yeah, good work. So, let's go back to Discord, or let's go back to Discord. But let's do our halftime stretch. Before we continue here. So this is our halftime stretch. This was a time, Meg, I'm sure you're familiar, where we get up, pet our dogs, call your family, whatever you want to do. I don't know, cough up a lung, etc. While I just talk about my music. Yeah, exactly. We have gone through, honestly, a lot of my vinyl collection through these streams where I've just been talking about them. So, the only ones I have left at this point would be, that I haven't talked about at all, would be stuff like Sable. I don't know if you ever played that game. I have actually never played it myself, but the soundtrack is very chill. It is created by Japanese Breakfast. Is the name of the band, and it's like a watercolory rendered out game where the further something is in the back, the brighter it is, and you can see here what I'm talking about. But it's all rendered in engine, and it's a really cool idea the way they did it. It's a very chill game. It's very much a game where you're just like, I'm just gonna zone out and play this game. You don't really have to worry about stressing out or anything like that. It's just like an exploration game with a really cool like synthesizer digital soundtrack. It's really nice. Ratchet and Clank, we talked about that, I believe. We got Rush 2112. You can't forget Rush. Let's see. We got your boy over here, which is what I've been listening to, or what I listened to last at least. So we got my favorite game of all time, which is Kingdom Hearts. Okay, so I actually got the soundtrack on vinyl that Square Enix sold. So Kingdom Hearts 1, right? Huge fan of that game. It's very dated, of course, PS2, but just I don't know, something about it, like just the world building is great. The soundtrack is phenomenal. The art style is stylized, so even though it's old, it still works. It still feels great. And then we have Kingdom Hearts 2, which is just a great improvement. Gameplay's better. The form editions are really cool, and then the soundtrack is more intense. But Dearly Beloved is the intro theme of all of the Kingdom Hearts games, and it is permanently my wake up ringtone in the morning, my alarm ringtone. I would recommend waking up to a piano song or something kind of chill, like Dearly Beloved, simply because then you don't wake up panicking and freaking out. It's more of like a soft kind of like, hey, remember you're still alive, kind of back to reality thing. And then this is Kingdom Hearts 3. Oops, almost fell out. Great game. A lot of people had mixed feelings about it. I disagree with this negative connotation that it has. People like to talk about how Kingdom Hearts 3 was, say, disappointing, but I think after 15 years of hype, because it took from 2005 to 2019 to go from Kingdom Hearts 2 to Kingdom Hearts 3, people I think just had unrealistic expectations, for one. And then for two, I think that the game was just as good as the other two. They just wanted more, I guess. But I actually really like the game just as much as the first two. Number one, number two, I think is. Number three is definitely the best gameplay. Number two, I think, is the best game. But then number one is my favorite because it's just like part of my soul at this point. I've just played it so many times. Yeah, we done Blade Runner. I mean, we've done like everything here. I guess I could finish it on this. This is one thing that I haven't talked about, which is Gorillas. I got the Gorillas Humans album on vinyl. Huge fan of their music. It is very just like chill. Great to listen to while you're working. And then of course being a 90s, early 2000s kid, Gorillas is like, just part of life at that point. So, besides that, there's not too much I haven't talked about. I have some Disney music in here, like from Frozen 2, because I recommended that Frozen 2 is the soundtrack you should listen to because it's better than Frozen 1. Where's Gorillas? GHGO. Okay. We've pretty much gone through like my whole collection here. I do have this, which is cool. This is not anything like mind blowing, but I think it's cool. It's so we talked about the Ghibli music last time, but this is All That Jazz with Ghibli music, and it's an entire record. They made two of these. I haven't got the second one yet, but it's an entire record in Japanese of Ghibli like hits, like essentially like a greatest hits of Ghibli music, redone with a jazz band. So it all has like this kind of swing jazz feeling to it, but it's all the same music. Very, very cool vibe, and very cool to listen to while you're working, and just hanging out. Just feels nice. So, yeah. I believe that's pretty much all of my Lotto records. I'm sure I'm missing a couple singles here and there, but really that's like the bulk of it. I do have the Tenacious D soundtrack because it's my favorite movie of all time. But yeah, so cool. So yeah, there's the music. I hope at some point someone listens to something I recommended and they're like, you know what? He was right. This is good. But yeah, so let's continue. Let's continue on this journey of everybody's cool art and just see what everybody's done. I know the reason why I wanted to do this, by the way, this final stream where I just like review people's work and like talk about what you guys have done. It's not because I want to like judge you, because I'm not judging by any means. It's more of like, I've been there where, and I still am, where I'll post something and it might get like, I don't know, 2 likes and then like nothing else. And you're like, well, was it good? Was it bad? Like, what was wrong with it? So this is, I just wanted to like, instead of just liking something or giving like a brief 5-word, or a brief like 1-sentence review on like, or feedback on it, I wanted to actually give you guys a chance to like show me your stuff and I'd give you some feedback on it, so yeah, just something to help out. So next one is Waldemar. They created this piece. Let's see. All right, so Nosferatu. Cool idea. Yeah, I was just about to say I haven't watched the movie, but there was The Last Voyage of Demeter that I really want to see. Really cool idea. I like this. So let's see. So you did it in ZBrush and then rendered it. Okay. Cool. Um, yeah, I mean, I like the idea. The I like that you have these little silhouette designs, these little thumbnail sketches. Cool exploration, like the wing shapes, and it's creating and how you explored like the way the wings actually create a shape together. Um, feel more intimidating versus just having like some arm flaps. Um, really cool. So yeah, honestly, design wise, I'd say the only note I have would be that the chest muscles feel a bit weird. Um, I mean, obviously he's gonna feel weird anyways because he's like distorted bat creature. But the chest muscles themselves feel a bit like they're coming straight out instead of them being more like actual like pecs, the pectoral muscles. Um, so you can see in this 3D render how much they jut out like that. Um, I think it would be more intimidating, at least as a creature design, to have him more muscular, like regular pectoral muscles. Because if you look at, let's see, if I type in guy abs, you can see here that you have like not that. What is it, like 12 abs on that dude? So you have like these muscles that are part of the chest, but it's not like poking out so far that's like unnatural or anything. Of course, I understand Nosferatu is an unnatural being. It's it's a bat creature of some sort, but this feels a bit more intimidating, and you can see if I typed in like Bane from DC Universe. So you can see in his design that even though he's big and unnatural, his muscles are still following suit of like regular muscles, where he has biceps that are in the right spot. They're just exaggerated and distorted in the way that Bane is, but they're not like jarring in their exaggeration. You gotta kind of control it. So like in this example as well, you can see that the chest piece or the chest muscles still follow suit of anatomy of the creature, and of like human anatomy, particularly, but it still gives off this like distorted, intimidating vibe because of everything else. You don't need a chest piece to be, like jutting out or anything. So that's just a little character design note. Nothing too crazy. But overall, I like the rest of it. The giant ears are cool. I like the way they blend into the neck instead of being attached to like the jawline. They're coming down into like the neck area, which is cool. I like that idea. So yeah, this is cool. It's a good idea. Good rendering and a solid model. Yeah, sweet. I would say, even presentation wise, you have, him standing there like intimidating and menacing in this like neutral pose, which is cool. But if you have the chance, it would be cool because he's intimidating to have more of a fierce pose, more of like a pose like I don't know. I mean, you can have him neutral like this, right? That's fine. But if you had something like let's see, bat creature concept art. If you had something like this, where he's actually doing like his bat stuff, that would be cool. Of course, this is just a creature design, and I'm not saying that this is wrong. I'm just saying it would be cool as well to have like a shot, since you have these different angles of him already, of him in like a dynamic, angry pose or something like that. I think that'd be cool. Yeah, so definitely cool stuff. Appreciate you posting it on Discord so we can check it out. And let's move on to the next one. What do we got? While I pop another cough drop here. Next one is Prathamesh, something in that realm. The ruins of Kambuja, something like that. 400 likes. You definitely don't need my opinion. But it is cool, and I'm going to talk about it anyways. So, very cool piece. I like that you have the focal point of the main character, and then you're using the stairs to lead their eye up to the deer. Really cool job. And then you have this other staircase leading this way about halfway up the stairs, which is leading your eye to this part of the focal point, which is the entrance of, the ruins or something like that. Really cool. So you have this kind of double focal point going left and right. It's nice. The rendering is great. Overall, it's got like this warm, natural feel to it. I will say that it's leaning towards, again, if I had anything to change, it would just be that I would add more like, just like a slight warmer tone to the highlights. Right now, the highlights are feeling very green. I would make it a bit more like towards the yellow spectrum. But honestly, that's not like a necessary change. That would just be my personal choice. The shadows are cool. They're blue. You have these like blue grays going in with the green warms. It's great. Asset designs are solid. Your thumbnail sketches are cool. So how do you sketch these out? So these were sketched out in, I'm assuming these were sketched out in a 3D software, and then you just moved the lighting around in like a rough 3D environment, and then you just made it black and white for the contrast. Yeah, that's probably what you did. This is cool. Yeah, I love these exploration sketches. These are always fun. So I've done these before myself, and they're actually on my ArtStation, I believe. But these are fun. I will say that because you have this kind of like brokenness to it, this broken vibe to everything, I get that you were exploring the architecture as a whole, so you're making everything symmetrical. But I would probably also have done a sheet, unless before I say it, no, okay, that's it. All right. So I would have also done like a second sheet to show what it would look like as they aged. So you would have like an age sheet of like some like ruins and like how destroyed are the ruins? Like, are they overgrown? Are they completely crumbled? Or are they like kind of fallen apart and overgrown, and like show like the mix between the two? That kind of idea I think is worth exploring before you actually go into a full key piece like this. Now, if you started with a key piece and then you did this as like a later on thing, just kind of exploring the world, that's fine. I've done that as well. Hey T-Scar, how's it going? I've done that as well, where I did it with a Kitsune piece, where I started with a key piece and then worked into like prop design later. So that's totally fine. It's just I would explore like some ruin destruction and have like a exploration sheet of that, because right now this is very pristine and clean. Whereas like if you send this to a modeler, or you went into like the modeling phase from this, they wouldn't quite understand that you wanted it to be like old and ruined and broken and jagged and overgrown and everything like that. But overall, this entire exploration is fine. Solid work, great 3D rendering, and then Photoshop on top of it. Nice job. Honestly, like the composition's great. Everything's fine. So that's pretty much all I got to say about that. You have 397 likes, but I'm going to add one to it anyways. So Solid job. Now, T-Scar, since you just arrived, I was letting you know that if you have anything that you would like me to look at, to give you some feedback on just like general advice on how to make it better or like what you did great on it, something like that, feel free to post the link in Discord or here in the live chat, and I will open it up and check it out, and I can talk about it and give you some ideas, you know? So, in the meantime, let's continue with the Discord journey. Let's see. Okay, so we got this piece from Lewis. Phenomenal job. I mean, 1.8 thousand likes. I definitely don't need to tell you did anything wrong, but but great work overall for sure. The piece has like I don't know, the piece has like this ethereal feel to it because of the color choices for sure. Of course, the design of the landscape is important, so you have like this rocky landscape. It's creating like this floaty space, almost like a No Man's Sky feel. But because of the colors of it, it has like this pink and blue tone to it, which is not something that is normally found in nature. It creates more of an ethereal feel just from the color choices alone. Really cool. Big fan of course, seeing the brush strokes, and you can see some of the brush stroke textures here with like the powdery snow and everything, or the sand or dust or whatever. Really cool. Yeah, I mean, honestly, just solid piece. The like tentacle creatures, like the squids coming from the left to the right of the image, from here all the way across, is a great compositionally. If you just break it down shape wise, you now have a line coming across the image, which is drawing people's eyes to this interesting element in the bottom left, and then of course the main focal point in the middle. Then in this corner here, you have this kind of like negative space of like not a lot going on, but it's still interesting because you have this curvature of the rock, creating like a really cool texture, which is similar to that canyon in what was it? I think it's in New Mexico, or Colorado, I think, which is not even close to each other. But what was it? It was a desert canyon. It's like all over Instagram. It's like the place to go. This place. There's a name for it. I just can't find the name of it. But yeah, so it has like this curvature, this curvy rock feel to it, which is really cool. Which is like this natural formation. I dig it. Very cool idea. I was saying Arizona Antelope Canyon. That's it. That's what I was talking about. So, yeah, it feels like that, which is really cool. I dig it. And then of course the pink vibe. Big fan of that. The second piece is cool as well. Second piece doesn't have like a story to it or a focal point of any kind. I mean, it has a focal point of like the main tree, but it doesn't have like a point to the piece other than just exploring the environment around it. Big fan of doing that, just because you kind of just stumble across like really cool ideas without actually planning, without actually having to worry about like a narrative. You're just kind of exploring the world. So you have this great vibe, and you're just exploring it in a different environment. You have this like hint of like a crystalline structure underneath the rock. You have the same thing going through the tree, which also kind of feels like a rock as well. So it's kind of like a rocky tree. And then you have like just overall this like really cool feeling to it. I did a similar thing on a really old piece of mine, which is not by any means as good as that piece, but it was something that I did a long time ago because I was exploring just a world. You know, there was no narrative. It was this piece. There was no narrative or anything like that. I was just kind of just bored one day and wanted to explore my idea of like what would be this kind of like ethereal, floating, rocky world. And to do so, I just placed an image of a mountain in a broken layer and then painted on top of it and turned it into some kind of like acid trip of an environment. Of course, this was 8 years ago, so my skills have progressed past that rendering style, but it is it is a fun practice at least to just kind of shut off any kind of focus on narrative and story and anything like that, and just focus on the point of exploring. You know, like just have fun creating like a cool world. Like you don't have to. This is your project, you know, so you don't have to focus so much on impressing anybody with like an exploration piece like this. This is more just make what you think is cool, and then somebody's going to like it at some point, so I'm going to like it. And yeah, thank you for sharing. That's cool. That's a cool piece for sure. All right, so T-Scar, did you have anything you would like me to look at? If you do, be sure to let me know if you post it in Discord, because I'm scrolling up, so I'm kind of off the current posts. But yeah, so just let me know and I will check it out. Christina posted this picture. Well, actually, this picture was posted before that. Let's see. So this picture was posted by who is this? It just says R dot 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 dot. I can't view the name. It just says R dot dot dot. Oh, it's because I have streamer mode enabled. Let me turn that off real quick. Settings. What is that? Privacy. Streamer mode needs to be turned off. Streamer mode. Here we go. Discord. Trying to keep us safe. There we go. All right. Rob Coney. That's the name of the person that posted this. Really cool. No problem, T-Scar. You just hang out, enjoy the ride. So Rob Coney, solid piece. Really like this idea. I actually am a big fan of like giant spaceships like this. I used to do that all the time in my own work. If we go to ArtStation, you'll see what I'm talking about. Way back here, like way back, I have like shots like this where I have like a giant spaceship of some sort taking off. I have very, very old piece from 9 years ago of this like the sketch I had of like a smuggler's den where people would live and travel to, and you can see that it's terribly done. The rendering on it is pretty bad, and then of course the colors on it are rough. Yeah, so you know we all have to come from somewhere, right? But big fan of like spaceships and giant ships like that in general, and this is really cool. This is a shot, they said, from, let's see here, they said a concept for Doctor Who. Really cool. I don't know if they mean that like it was in Doctor Who, like actually used in Doctor Who, or if they're just doing like a fan art. I don't watch Doctor Who, so I couldn't tell you. But the image itself is really cool and rendered really well. That I could easily see it being a shot from the show. Yeah, I mean, what is there to say? Like you know, you nailed it. As far as let's just assume that this is part of the show, or let's assume that this is not part of the show and it's like you just made this piece for yourself. If that is the case, I would say that you could play a bit with the color. Again, I know I keep mentioning this, but it is very monochromatic, which does sell a certain vibe. So if it is part of the show and an art director told you to do that, then that is just because of like the overall shot of the show is that's what they've decided on. But if you're doing like just a piece for yourself as like portfolio or something like that, um, I would recommend something that kind of like pops out a bit stronger, and it would be a bit better if you had a bit more color to it. As far as like just like one other color added to it would be cool. Something in like I don't know exactly what would be the case. If you did blue back here, it would ruin the vibe of this like intimidating, daunting ship. I would say maybe something in the rocks. You could have like colored of like the grass or some kind of growth growing on the rocks, or if it's a desolate environment, you could have like a sand color or something like that, like like the orange, something to kind of give it a bit more of a contrast, so instead of everything kind of blending together, you have more of a standout between the focal point and the environment around it. Yeah, I think that would work. But again, this is not a necessary note by any means. So feel free to tell me to shut up and not do that. uh, that's just my personal take on it. So yeah, I will say. I will say, did you kit bash this? Like, it looks like it was kit bashed a bit. Um, it's hard to tell, of course, with the rendering and everything, but I'm curious to see how you made the model. It looks like it was kit bashed symmetrically, um, and then you kind of just like uh, rendered it from there. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just think it's cool. It's just a cool idea. So yeah, kit bashing, for anybody that doesn't know, is the same thing as photo bashing in Photoshop. So in photo bashing in Photoshop is like where you take a bunch of photos and kind of throw them together and then paint on top of it, which is kind of what I do. Kit bashing is more of, imagine if you took, okay, let's use my cough drop papers here. So kit bashing is, imagine if you took a model and then you took another model, and instead of modeling from sculpting like clay, you took two models and you kind of put them together, and then you took a third model asset and just kind of put it together, and you started like adding a bunch of 3D assets together in a certain way that creates a design similar to like photo bashing without having to worry about modeling everything from scratch, because you're just kind of throwing a bunch of assets together and then modeling from there. That's a fun way to do it in concept art. It is a very common way to do it as well. So I'd recommend, trying it out if you're like new to 3D or something like that and it takes too long for you. Clients, art directors, creative directors, supervisors, whoever you report to, will always want something done as fast as possible. So kit bashing is a good way to kind of speed up the process. So yeah, you could try that. That's always fun. So let's continue. So now we have Christina Boyko. Christina, this is a cool shot. I had no idea that you set it up in 3D first and then painted on top of it. I honestly thought this entire thing was rendered in 2D. So that's impressive for sure. But so let's just kind of like bake in the image. Just kind of bask in it, kind of get the feeling going, and think about it for a second. So I like the framing you've done. Of course, you have the framing of the archway that's like creating this centered frame. You've kind of pushed the focus point towards the center, and then on the edges you have these flowers and roses, and then what looks to be a dinosaur of some kind hanging out here, just going doing his little thing over here. So super cool. Great frame job for sure. The piece itself is great. I like the story, the narrative. You got some dinosaurs with like roses tied to them, so you've sold, and back here they're like on top of them. So you've sold this idea that they're living harmoniously with the people, um, and it's creating like this really peaceful vibe, which is great. Uh, Composition wise, instead of everything being perfectly symmetrical and centered, you have it broken up symmetrically with two trees here and one here. Solid job. And then you've broken up the symmetry while maintaining the symmetry. So you have these two trees going straight up and down in the middle here, which is creating like you have two trees, you have a creature on each side, you have a person on each side, and then you have flowers on each side. So it's very like cut the picture in half. Both sides are symmetrical, but you have an interesting element here with the pterodactyl type flying dinosaurs, and then your interesting element over here is like a Rapunzel style tower with some birds. So it creates like this. It's still symmetrical in the way of like you have a balanced composition where like something is on this side and something is on that side, but you've broken up the symmetry by making it dinosaurs and tower. However, narratively, I don't know if you did this on purpose or not, but narratively, the birds being on this side and the pterodactyls being on this side have shown that they live in the same world of two different kinds. So it still sells that same idea where you have this like humankind living together with dinosaurs because you have these birds also flying in the same air as dinosaurs. So it kind of like cements the idea of nature that we know and relate to living with the dinosaurs that we don't know and relate to. So really cool idea. Color schemes are great. I like this kind of blue green that you got going on. Very like Mediterranean color scheme or like Middle Eastern in some areas. Very cool. I like the facade designs that you have going on here. Super cool. And overall, just a great piece. I like it. Yeah, I will say the piece is very like bloom heavy, which is, it's giving off this vibe of like a storybook, which is great. But that is because of the bloom. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but the bloom is like in certain areas, like right here next to the main character, is like really blasted out on that bush, and then like over here behind the flowers, you have like this, and over here you have this like background separation that's creating like this lighting bloom. If you get away from the image and kind of look, you can see that there's there's like four spotlights being cast. So you have down here by the flowers is one bright spot, the bush is one bright spot. Down here by these flowers is another bright spot, and then up here is a bright spot. And it's creating like this dreamy, like Lord of the Rings, bloomy kind of feel to it. Like whenever Frodo was waking up and he sees all his friends coming in, and Aragorn just stares at him. Or not Aragorn. What was it? Legolas. Legolas just stares at him. So, yeah, it's cool, really cool. And I'm not saying the bloom is bad. I'm just saying that's what I'm getting from. I'm getting that feeling, and it's because of the bloom. Now, I had no idea you started 3D with this. That's impressive, for sure, and really cool. It says you did it in Blender. I honestly like to see sketches, especially 3D sketches like this, where you get simple models, because you get to see the shapes used that people use as like placeholders, and the dinosaur shape right here that looks like a chicken nugget is great. Like just like this nugget of a dinosaur just chilling here. I know he looks fine here, and you did a great job. I just really like the goofiness of this like these little nuggets running around. Yeah, really cool idea, and cool rendering all around. So yeah, I'm gonna give that a big ol' like, and thank you for sharing. And yeah, I mean you can actually kind of see what I was talking about here. So um, if you look here, you got this like bloom feel to it, very soft edges and very bright. But then here, it's more like natural lighting where the bush is lit clearly all the way around, whereas here, bush is like blasted out and then like blasted out over here. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like blasted out so much that it makes the piece bad. It's just giving like this kind of dreamy feel to it, which if that's what you were going for, uh, you nailed it. So yeah, it's really cool. So thank you for sharing. And we are going to continue with the rest of that. Let's see. What we got? What do we got now? The Butcher by David. David again. All right. So David. The Butcher is a shot from Unreal Engine. It's a couple shots. Wow, you got a whole little exploration here. Okay, cool. So we can talk about this a lot because I'm actually a major fan of like this detective noir vibe. Huge detective noir guy. I've got freaking Watchmen over here, and the whole Blade Runner series. Like every like main detective noir movie I could possibly get, I have over here. Big fan of that. And actually, my personal project that I've been working on in secret is a noir style story. So, already brownie points from me. Maybe a little biased, but you know, we'll take a bias when we can get it right. So, first off, I like the presentation and the color schemes you got going on here. So, this is detective noir. So you don't want it to be, let's say, like super vibrant and colorful. You can have color noir, which, in case you didn't know there was a difference, color noir. So if I type in noir, you're going to get stuff like this, right? Where it's very like shadow contrast, black and white heavy. Very like the Sin City movie, stuff like that. But if you get color noir, you'll end up with something like this, where you get like, you know, reds and browns coming in. But I'm looking for specifically photography, maybe aesthetic. Oh yeah, here we go. So you can get color noir like this, where it's like vibrant colors, but still like that noir, dramatic, harsh shadow contrast lighting. Same thing with like this. So you know, noir is not necessarily dark, depressing, desaturated kind of story. You can have it be colorful and vibrant, but still have this like dark story underlining. Just depends on how you want to approach it, and I am a huge fan of either way. It is all about Chinatown, Meg. Chinatown is it's always a staple when it comes to noir stories. So yeah, so presentation wise, I like it. It feels let's say like slightly stylized, simply because you have this character in the middle here. I guess I can't zoom in on it, but their body shape is a bit exaggerated, and this motorcycle is a bit stylized. So overall, it's a slightly stylized feeling to it. But I really like the fact that you have this brokenness to it. And I always talk about broken stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you break it, you buy it, and if you break it, I'll buy it, because I really like this feeling of like human environment. It's like dirty. It's been used. There's like a story there, and you have this broken element with these graffiti. So in this shot right here, you have some graffiti here and some graffiti over here, and then a little bit of graffiti poking through over here. and it's creating like, and even up here, and it's creating like this like, even though this is just 3D render, it's creating almost of a brushstroke feel because of the fact that you have this like texture poking through on certain areas and color, and it's super cool. So a similar idea would be like Into the Spider-Verse. So Into the Spider-Verse, you can see that it is 3D rendered, of course, but in the images that I'm trying to find here, something like, dang it, it's always tough to find the exact image that you're thinking of like that, and that's why the research part always takes me like a day. So something like this, where you can see that, here we go, that's a better idea. So you can see in here that it is 3D rendered, but because the environment is, graffitied or like used, and it has like this kind of feeling to it, it creates this feeling of like brushstrokes, even though there's not actually brushstrokes in the environment. It just creates this feeling of like an illustration, because humans, we fellow humans, whenever we paint something or we illustrate something, we don't do it perfectly to where we have no brushstrokes. There's always some kind of stroke somewhere, and unless you're like working on hyperrealism, which even then, if you zoom in close enough, there's going to be a brush stroke or a pencil stroke somewhere. So I don't know, it feels nice. Instead of it just being a perfectly clean 3D render, it feels like it has some character to it. Now, composition wise, I like what you're going here. Meg, this is similar to what I was talking about with your boat. So the main character is a 3/4 angle looking towards where we as the viewer are supposed to look. So he is moving towards the butcher bar, and you can see like the backside of their face a little bit and their general design. I was saying for you, Meg, that you would have your main character in the boat looking at the dragon, who would also be looking at her. So it'd be like this kind of angle, where they're kind of like 45-degree looking at each other. Something like that I think would be interesting. You could also, if you wanted to, Meg, you could try lowering the camera to something like this, because your camera is a bit high, looking down at the boat and the snake and everything. But if you had the camera angle kind of lower towards the water line, a bit of the swamp, it would make the snake feel larger, because you're kind of having it take more space on the composition, because it would be like, so I gotta do this backwards because you're looking at me. So if the snake is here and your camera's like up here looking down at it, if you lower the camera a bit to where you're a bit more leveled with the snake would feel bigger, larger, and take up more space on the composition. So you could try that as well. That might help you feel, sell more of like a mystical, like giant dragon feel. So yeah, composition wise, this is great. You have the main character looking this way, coming towards the butcher bar. It's phenomenal. And then I also really like this framing you've done here. So you have this this kind of like railing steel girder kind of support here that's coming across, creating a box that is just like perfectly outlining the character. So that way, like, this is where I'm supposed to look. And then it's like, oh, the character's looking this way, and then you look over there towards the butcher bar. So this is like perfectly throwing your eyeball exactly where it should be. It's not getting lost anywhere. It's not getting distracted or anything like that. One thing that doesn't make a total lot of sense is that you have rain coming down. But in this shot and in these shots, you see that this is actually covered. This area is like covered with something, like the supports continue, so there's got to be like a walkway or train station or something above you. If I'm wrong, I just sounded like that the video of the people arguing about Wizard of Oz. You gonna look at me and tell me I'm wrong? She came down in a freaking bubble, dog. So if I'm wrong, that's fine. It just feels like from this shot that this cover piece right here continues over you, and it continues over the whole area, which means the rain wouldn't be dropping here because you'd be protected from the rain. But it could be that there's like a block here, and then it stops, and then there's the rest of the city. But if that was the case, I would say just make it a bit more obvious. And like these other shots have like some lighting coming down or something. But overall, real big fan of this style and rendering that you got going on here in general. So we did the first shot. So let's skim through the rest here. Butcher from the other angle, really cool shot. Motorcycle, I think, is doing exactly what you want it to, where it's like drawing people's eye towards the butcher sign. So because the headlight is like pointing there, and then this light over here is pointing towards your character that was walking. So you're highlighting over there, which is great. I would say maybe pushing, because there's a corner here, I know that. I would say either one, take creative liberties and move this corner a little bit to the left so you can shift the camera just a slight bit to the left, simply because this motorcycle is like directly center. Like it's like a direct center line. It says butcher and motorcycle. I think it'd be cool if it was like slightly off to the left. Like if the camera moves slightly off, panned a little left, and also like rotated a little bit to the right. So that way you have less of like a direct center shot and have more of this like kind of angle, just like an interesting angle near the corner. Not like that this is bad or anything. I just think that would be cool because generally speaking, a directly center line like this comes off as like either one, a stylistic choice that somebody like chose on purpose because they're trying to make a centered composition. For example, a little fun fact: Mad Max Fury Road. This one. Mad Max Fury Road was done by what's his face? I always forget the name every time. I'm pretty sure it was Del Toro, right? But I always forget if it was or not. George Miller. All right, so George Miller directed this, and what was cool is I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a bit long, but phenomenal movie. Great cinematography. Soundtrack, is very like intense and just over the top, and the story, of course, is Mad Max, so it's just very over the top. It's not like it's going to win like the best narrative of the year, but cinematography was phenomenal. And if you want an idea of like how to make a centered composition work well, watch this movie, because in this movie, there's a lot of cuts, like a lot of action scenes where they're like cutting between things that are happening. So it can get exhausting as you're watching a movie or playing a game, and like a cinematic keeps cutting from one angle to another, and your eye tries to catch up, and you're like doing this whole thing. You look like a fly on the wall, and you're like jutting around everywhere. So in Mad Max, what they did is, or what George Miller did, I don't know if it was just him. It could have also been the director of photography working with him, but they focused on a centered composition. So throughout the entire movie, every time they cut to a different shot, the like if it's like a fast cut, if it's not like a establishing shot that's kind of slow moving, if it's like a fast cut, they always cut to where the shot is framed from a centered composition. And the reason why is because imagine if you have, let's say you had like a pin, like a Wacom pin, Wacom. Say you had a pin and you're watching this, and this is your cut, right? Your eye is on the pin, and then it cuts to the next thing, and the next thing is right there where your pin was, right there where the eye was. You never have to look away. Every time it cuts, you're directly still looking at the same spot. So your eye isn't like, it's not like cutting over here, it's cutting over here. The focal point is always towards the center. So even though there's a lot of crap going on the screen, there's even a dude playing a guitar, shooting flamethrowers. There's a whole crazy wild movie. You have this breathing area where your eyes can just rest in the middle of the screen and not have to dart around everywhere and try to catch up to everything that's going on. So that's just a little tidbit on censored compositions, and if you hadn't seen that movie, I'd recommend it. So yeah, right now this is very centered, which works. I just, for a shot like this, might move it a little bit to the side. Now the interior shot, really cool. I'm glad you have somebody actually like moving the stool instead of it just being a static shot of like nothing, just the interior. This shows like there's actually like somebody working there, living there, moving things around, and creating like a living environment. This neon sign being like slightly out in certain areas is like darker in the H area and stuff like that is really funny to me, because I don't know what it is about neon signs, but they just never work perfectly. Like they're always out in some form. And that's just a natural thing that happens. So I totally appreciate the thought process there. And it also adds character to the scene because it gives a feeling of like they're actually having to worry about like budget problems and stuff like that. It's not like everything works perfectly, which in a noir story is great because you want everything in a noir story to feel kind of bad, like run down. Because noir is a genre about the negative side of life. So you have like the depressions, the darkness, the drinking, the smoking, the murders and crime and everything like that. So the genre noir, if you're trying to capture that genre, you want to make sure the environment also feels kind of broken and not pristine or great or anything like that. A great show that does that, in case you guys haven't seen it, is excuse me while I get another cough drop, is Altered Carbon. And Altered Carbon is a phenomenal show. I haven't finished the second season, but the first season was great. And it's like a cyberpunk Blade Runner style show, but it has a great noir feel to it, and they do a great job of making the world feel bad, which you can see if I just type in Altered Carbon. Probably concept art. You can see here that the world itself just feels like somewhere you wouldn't actually want to live. It's like this dystopian cyberpunk world, and advertisements are like in your eyes. So your eyes themselves, like the advertisements are augmented reality. So they're being projected only to you, to your eyes, and you have to pay a subscription to not see them, which is terrible. That's just a terrible idea. So overall, great show, great example of the idea of like a bad environment representing a noir style story. So this is a sketch, I'm assuming, of like your original sketch. I actually really like this shot without the character in it, as just like an exploration shot of the environment, and with the car instead of the motorcycle. That's really cool. You could still do both shots. This is one thing that people tend to forget. So if you're doing a sketch like this and you have this shot and you're like, man, I like it without the character and, with the environment being like the main selling point, and then you have this shot with the character and you're like, but I like that too, so I went with this one. Well, you can do both. So if this is a film or a game or something of the like, what you can do is have the shot start with this, and then have the character walk in and the camera moves over to line up to this kind of shot. Or you can have the camera start with this shot, and as the camera walks into the bar, you could have it line up to this kind of shot. So even if you make a sketch and you don't use the sketch exactly as you sketched it out, you can, but you still have like elements in it that you like. You made it, so nobody's stopping you from, keeping that element into your project, however you want it to be. And that isn't always the case. Sometimes, a lot of times, ideas get scrapped, but sometimes they get reworked. So, for example, Destiny is a good example for that. Where, and this is just, by the way, the 3D before you like rendered everything out. It's cool. It's a cool idea. Just to see everything as you laid it out. It's pretty neat. So overall, great job. Definitely gonna get a like, and big fan of genre anyways. But Destiny is a great example of how a sketch can be reused without changing anything. So Destiny, if you haven't played it, the game, Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, first off, gorgeous games. Like, they just look great. But if you look at their concept art, which I have some of them as wallpaper, I have this one as a wallpaper. Let's see. So, for example, this one. So, this is a shot from the game, or concept art, but this would have been a shot from the game of the what looks to be some guardians that are fighting an ogre. Now, if you haven't played the game, ogres are rough. They're big boys, really strong. Now, they got fleshy heads, they're really squishy heads, so their heads are like the weak point. But it's called an ogre. Okay, originally, an ogre is like not that. It looks more like like Shrek always made fun of them. They look like this, right? They look like fantasy ogres. You got Shrek or whatever. This is more like what an ogre normally is. And the reason why it's not that, but it's still called an ogre, is because originally, as far as to my knowledge, the original idea for Destiny was a medieval fantasy story, where they had medieval fantasy creatures, but somewhere along the development, they changed the idea, and it was probably really early on when they changed it, but they still started with medieval fantasy and then changed the idea to sci-fi, because Destiny is like space, and this is like the moon. So they actually changed to a sci-fi genre, which meant that they had to like rework the story and everything, but they didn't have to, because they just use the same names for different creatures. So it's called an ogre, but it doesn't look like an ogre, but it originally was supposed to be an ogre. And then you have like the hive, so like a hive wizard from Destiny. So he's a wizard, but he looks nothing like a wizard. So you have this like leftover of medieval fantasy terminology that they use at the beginning for their names and for the characters and creatures, but they didn't actually stick with the design. They changed the design, but they kept the name. So it is very possible for you to come up with an idea from the beginning, and then it changes along the way, but then you still like certain aspects from the beginning, so you still use that in a completely different way. So same thing here. You like this shot, you like that shot, you can use both. It's fine. So cool idea, and hopefully the rambling somewhere helped you out or made sense. So we probably have time for like one or two more. Let's do Jacob. Never know how to pronounce it. Your shot right here of like a pirate, it looks like. You got a couple shots here. So we got 3 different environments. So this is gonna be fun. So we have you're working at Bluebird. That's cool. So we have an environment scene of a pirate in their like what you call it, the quarters, I guess, like the pirate quarters, headquarters, captain's quarters. That could be the word. So whatever, the like the back of the ship, the far back of the ship where the captains hang out. I swear it's captain's quarters, but it's something like that. So, first off, cool shot, cool idea. I like the candelabra, and then the uh, the pirate design itself is very simple, but it's cool because it comes off as like more realistic. When you have pirate designs that are something like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, where you get, I think his name is Edward. He ends up looking like he is a fantasy character for sure, because pirates didn't wear that much crap on them. You can see it through all of these characters that they're all absolutely designed with the idea of looking cool. So like there were some liberties taken where they just added some elements because it looked cool, which was not realistic by any means. And there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, we're designing art, we're making art, so if you want to make something look cool, make it look cool. Go for it. But I'm just saying that your pirate design here is a bit more realistic, where it was simple because they didn't have like a lot of wealth in general for crazy. I mean, they had wealth because they were stealing it, but like they didn't have like 19 belts and like 40 different weapons on them, So this is totally fine. Great design, or great implication of like realistic design, and overall cool render. I like this telescope you got going on here. The telescope, I will say, I don't know if it's the perspective or if it's the telescope itself, or maybe it's the character size, but it feels a bit large compared to like the character. So I don't know. I might have like reduced that a little bit, but the coins also feel very large. Now I don't know if you're doing the coins large on purpose, but if the character's standing there and you're using him as like a scale, the coins feel like they would be like half the size of his hand. That'd be like the coin would be like the size of this mouse. So like the coin would be that big. That'd be a huge coin. Now I don't know if it's in scale of like historically accurate. I don't know if the coins were that big back then. I doubt it, because it seems like a waste of material. But I don't know. It's something about the stuff on this table. Now these coins seem fine. These little ones right here, but these big medallion ones are massive. So I don't know. Something about, and even the gun. The gun feels a bit large. Something about the scale of this stuff right here feels a bit large, but overall, I liked it. And solid job. Color harmony is cool. You have this like film harmony to it, and what I mean by that is it's not like a game where you have a bunch of like backlights and lighting and everything coming from a bunch of different places. This is more of just like a film shot where you have some candle lighting and then some lighting coming through the window, and that's like all the lighting you have. It gives more of a cinematic feel to it when you do that. Game lighting has a lot of, and then of course you have some bounce light on the back of his chest here, but game lighting in general, if you look at it, let's say, what's the game that came out recently, like a horror, Alan Wake. All right, so Alan Wake 2. I haven't played it. I really want to, but it's just one of those things. If you look at it, you can see lighting's coming from a bunch of different places. You have lighting down here from the flashlight. You have lighting over here where you want the player to go, and then you have lighting up here where you want the player to look. So when you're playing a game or something like that, you tend to have lighting of multiple different aspects all over the place. And the reason why is because you're giving the player somewhere to go. You're giving the player something to look at, something to do, something to interact with, and progress them moving forward through the world that you've created. Whereas in film, you're not coercing somebody to move forward. You're just filming somebody that's acting or animation of some sort. So you can play around with lighting not being so just like everywhere. You can have it kind of more dynamic and cinematic and focused towards what you want it to look like, or where you want the player, or you want the viewer, the watcher, to look at, and a cinematic, something like that. So That's cool. So let's go ahead and move on to number 2, which is looks to be like a carousel with a child on a horse. Um, I will say one thing that stands out immediately is the value difference. So the horse is probably not, let's say like a black horse. It's probably not like super dark, but it is a darker value, and you have it kind of fading out with lighter values here because it's creating, the distance between the horse and the fence, which makes sense. Totally get it. The problem is this child's shoe is black, and the problem is the shadows on her clothes are kind of faded out with that warm haze that you have going on, but her shoe is not. So her shoe is still very much dark compared to the horse. Um, Now, I guess in reality, the shoe probably would be darker than the horse, but because you have like back here this warm haze is kind of pushing everything away from the fence. That shoe, you may want to take artistic liberties and kind of push the shoe back as well. The shoe did stand out like immediately, this leg right here, because of the contrast between the leg and the shoe. It's standing out as like being right in the middle of the piece as well. So as soon as I looked at the piece, that was where my eye went, was this contrast right here. So you might want to push that together and kind of push that away, so that way it's not so look right at it. Now, the other option is, or not the other option, but the other thing that I was looking at is the tickets over here. So I like this. This is cool. You have something to look at in the corner, and then of course you have this giant carousel or Ferris wheel. This is a carousel. You have the giant Ferris wheel on the side, and then of course you have the parents, I'm assuming, watching the kid, and then somebody over here just hanging out eating popcorn. Now, overall, cool shot, really cool shot. I like the lighting. I also like this little world building where you got a teddy bear here because the kid wanted to ride, so they told the she told the, or he or she told the parents to watch the teddy bear for them. So the teddy bear's chilling there, and the popcorn's over here. What? Because that person's eating it. Really cool world building all around. Honestly, just a solid piece all around. And I don't really have a lot of notes. It feels very cinematic, like a film, again, because of course it's just like one focal point, lighting, with a little bit of lighting over here. Now, I do appreciate that you took the creative liberty of breaking the rules, because if you look here, to anybody else that's watching, he has lighting here, these light bulbs on the Ferris wheel all the way up. And in general, if a carnival is working, the Ferris wheel lights will be on. So you could go with the realistic approach of like, should all the lights be on? Or you can go with the cinematic approach where, no, he turned them off, so that way the focal point is the carousel in the middle, and the giant bright lights that are on that. Now, could it have worked if he left the lights on with the Ferris wheel? It could have. I could see it being done well. I would probably like left them dimmer, than the main front point. But having them turned off like this may not have actually happened in real life, but it does completely bring the focus point to your focal point. So solid work there. Great job. And like this person said, the lighting is great. Lighting is perfect. Honestly, just like solid work all the way around. Color harmonies are cool. It's got like this warmness to it. The warm lighting, of course, but also the shadows are still warm. And in this narrative, it gives off like this memory feeling, like it feels like a nostalgia kind of thing. It's really nice. Now the third final piece, and probably the last thing I will talk about on the stream, because it is almost time to close up here. This is a police locker room of some sort. I'm only saying that because there's a policeman there. It could be not a police locker room, but it just feels like it. Now, in this locker room, I'm getting like some mixed feelings as far as like the narrative. So the composition's great. I like this bench coming straight across the bottom and having these like jutted characters breaking the monotony of the bench all the way across, and then the window lighting bringing in is cool. And even though you have these lights hanging, you're using the window lighting as reflections and everything like that on this damp like shower locker room floor. Great job. Really like that idea. Now, unless the narrative of this is supposed to feel like this, it feels like these characters are a bit juxtaposed to each other. So you have, character choice wise at least, you have a policeman, what looks to be somewhat of a detective, talking to the policeman. You have a dude in what looks like business casual, and then you have a dude that's just in like a sweater, and then you have a dude that's in a full blown like business suit, talking on the phone, doing business things. So, as a shot and as a whole, like if you just put your eyes right in the middle of it and just enjoy the whole scene, it makes sense. But if you start looking at each character individually, it starts to make less sense on like the narrative of what's going on here. If you look at, and what I mean is like if you cover these three characters on the right, this guy in the middle, this one on the right, this one on the right, if you just like cover them with your hand and just look at the scene as a whole with the two characters on the left, it feels like a crime scene because of how dirty and damp it is there and what's going on. So it feels like these people are, talking about a crime scene or like something happened here, or there's a kerfuffle of some sort, and they're just trying to figure it out. But if you cover them and then you cover the guy in the middle and just have these two characters on the right here, the sweater guy and the suit guy, then the scene feels like suit guy is just coming up to talk to sweater guy, and they're just having like a meeting in like some grimy place. And then if you just cover everybody but the middle guy, everybody but this guy in the direct center, you get like a dude that just looks like he's either examining the area or he's like getting dressed for work. So I'm not saying that in real life everybody's tied together, because obviously in real life everybody is completely different people and you have different jobs and you're like doing your own thing. But for whatever the narrative is of this scene, and then I didn't even notice this guy back here that's just kind of blending into the background. But having this drastically different of each character, while your main focus is being highlighted by an officer of some sort, like a police officer, you're setting, and then like this tone of like this dirty locker room, you're setting a tone and a vibe and an environment and like this environment storytelling of a dirty police locker, which I can see up here says THPD. So you were thinking that this is a police locker room. So this is probably like an officer talking to like a detective, and this is probably like another detective. But then you have like a dude in a full-blown suit doing business, and then like a dude in an orange sweater. It just like completely throws off the feeling of like this detective police kind of feeling to it. So like I would just recommend changing the characters to fit more of like this police locker room theme. In general, in real life, that you may end up seeing people in orange sweaters and then dudes in suits coming in. But if you're reading a story or you're playing a game or you're watching a movie or watching a TV show, there's exaggeration in everything. And the reason why is because in storytelling, you want to exaggerate to sell a point. So in this point, you want to exaggerate that this is a police locker room. So you want people like, I don't know, with a towel over their shoulder, or, like shirtless with a towel over the shoulder, like they just came out of the shower, or like people putting on clothes, or two dudes just like hanging out by the locker talking to each other shirtless or something, or, some kind of, or, they don't have to be shirtless. I don't want to emphasize that they have to have no shirt on, but they can have clothes on, just make them feel more like police officer clothes, like exaggerated a bit. This one guy here on the left feels like a police officer because the hat and the uniform and everything, and then this guy feels like a detective just by association of the police officer, because you see a police officer and you see a guy in a leather jacket, you think detective immediately. So you've established this scene here with these two, and then these other guys just feel like just random dudes off the street. So I would just suggest like establishing that these are police officers. Maybe put like the police officer badge on his shirt somewhere, or like a name tag, or and then gets this guy with a suit definitely needs to change into something else, like a uniform of some kind, and then or maybe like another detective walking in, or this guy right here in the middle could be like another detective, something like that. Something just like exaggerate the idea without it being like too distracting. I think would help a lot. But overall, the shot is solid. I'm not saying it's bad by any means. It's just the character choices I think could probably improve selling the narrative of the scene. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much all my notes. As far as the color goes, I like that you still have some blue coming in with this like gross greenish brown. So it still has some color contrast. And then of course the orange sweater does have contrast. I'm with you on that one. It's just maybe do like orange something else. Like an orange badge or something like that. Just not like a just regular sweater. But yeah, so overall solid work. I liked all these pieces, and yeah, I hope that helps. And of course, feel free to tell me that I'm wrong and dumb. So that is pretty much all the time I have to go through everything today. And that is the final stream. So thank you guys for joining me. Meg and T-Scar, I believe you guys have been here since stream 1. So I appreciate you guys following along all the way. It has been 6 streams. We have started with an art Bible and research, and we've developed our own project, and then we've talked about y'all's projects and everything like that. And it was a lot of fun for me to just like hang out with you guys, chat, talk about what I like to do and what I do for work, and then help you guys with your stuff. And yeah, I appreciate you guys joining me along the way, and I appreciate, honestly, I just appreciate everything. So, and I appreciate you sticking up or handling me coughing every now and then while I'm half dying on stream. So, yeah, that's the end of the project. So I will see you guys in Discord every now and then. I'm always on Discord if you guys feel like reaching out to me for some feedback or something like that. I'll get back to you whenever I can. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I'm glad you guys joined me for the past month and a half. And I will see you guys next time. So, well, next time as in, on the flip side. I'll see you on the flippity dippity. All right. Take it easy, Meg and T-Scar, and everybody else that's watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful time. So, see you later.